Welcome back to the Anarchy garage, and as you can see, I've bought a motorbike. Now this thing is a GSXR 600 motorbike, and also, as you can see, it's accident damaged. This thing has had a proper prang down the road. So what we're going to do is strip it down and see if we can get it to actually sing us a tune. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually check the bike over and look for any bits that are going to stop it running. The first thing I've come across is this wiring loom on the side, but what I've also discovered is on the other side where it's actually dragged along the road, some of the casing's cracked. So let's have a look at that now. This is the first motorbike I've ever had to get hands on with. Motorbikes aren't really my thing, but I do appreciate them and I do want to learn more. And the best way I always find to learn is something like this, where you can rip it apart, you don't feel too guilty, and hopefully you end up with something really cool at the end of it. The reason I've wrapped it around this way is I'm probably missing a trick here, guys, but the stand is only on this side, so normally it would lean on that side. It's going to make it harder to work on. Now the thing I spotted when I picked this up was the casing here is smashed. Now there's no oil in the bike, it was dripping oil before, so what I want to do is take all of these fairings off, and I'm going to actually remove this casing and hopefully order a new one and see where I go from there. So after a little bit of Googling, I found that this area is actually called the stator. That's kind of like a alternator, I believe, but for a bike. Again, correct me if I'm wrong down below, but what I'm going to do is remove this casing now, because this is basically where all the oil seems to be coming from, and I think that's where the engine has lost its oil from as well. So we'll get this cap off and then see if there's any other damage, or if we can just get away with the cap. Okay, so I've now removed the stator off the side of the engine, and I have found some damage, which is actually a really good thing, because then I know what I'm looking at. There's a little chip missing off the casing just down the bottom here. This all seems to be filled with oil as well, so I'm imagining this is actually where the oil has gone. I'm going to have a look around the broken components on the bike and see if I can find this chip. If I can, that's great news, because I can either chemically weld it in or actually have the casing welded up by an aluminium welder, and then hopefully we're a next step forward to getting this engine running again. So I'm absolutely chuffed right now. I've just been having a little clean up, seeing if there's any additional damage or where the oil's coming from, and I've managed to find this. Now this is a little metal chip that is missing out the side of the crankcase, and I know it's a silly little piece of metal, but to have that built up in aluminium and actually welded up, because these are cast, is a really difficult job to find somebody to do it. But having that, I'm quite happy chemical metaling this in, and away we go. First big step. Right, so I've been online and I've ordered a new stator cover or crankcase cover. But while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to strip down the rest of the bike as well and get rid of anything that's broken, so I can really dig down into this engine. So I've just been taking all the front off, because there was a lot of metalwork that was actually damaged here. I kind of got a little bit caught up, so I was chasing some wires back, and I found that this had heated handlebars on it, or heated grips. So I have removed that. I've snipped the wiring just up here, so I'm going to take that up for now, because I'm assuming that's not going to affect any running on the bike at all. So I'm just going to take that up for now. I'm going to cable tie all of this back up here. It's not that I want to ride it at the moment, but if I can get it out of the way, it's going to mean it's easier to move this around, and also I'm checking over for damage on wires and stuff as I go as well. All of the front is now removed as well, and I can see that there is loads of damage on the front of the forks, but also that there's some few wires here that are unplugged. Now one of these is the near side indicator, I've marked that wire up because I don't know my way around bikes. If this isn't running or it isn't starting, I don't want to be looking at it and thinking, why isn't this plugged in? The other things I have found are this relay, which is kind of hanging off. I don't know where it goes to yet, but I'm assuming it is on the other side. The big thing I have spotted though is the radiator has taken one hell of a smack on this thing right in the middle. Now I don't know why that's happened or how it's happened, because it's almost like the forks have hit it and then it's all come back out. So very strange, but it will mean I need a radiator to run this for any prolonged amount of time. But for now, it won't stop me starting it up. So I'm going to flip the bike around and have a look what damage we've got on the other side as well. So first look around at the GSXR from the other side. Now this side seems to have taken the brunt of it on the top, whereas the other side seems to have taken the brunt of it from the bottom. So the first things I've spotted are broken wires, which are up here. These seem to have come out of this green plug, which is just underneath the frame. It all looks quite simple, but it looks like it's torn out of it. So I may need to get a new end of this plug, because then I will be able to toggle these back in and actually plug them back together. Now, this is crazy. All of the water's still in this thing, which is absolutely mental. So, just had a look, we've got a full water level, which is great, because that means we can actually run it up for a little length of time and really check this thing over. So yeah, really cool considering the smack that this radiator has had. So, a little bit of wiring here, no parts that I can see need replacing at the moment as well, which is really cool, at least to fire it up anyway. The only thing I am struggling with is the little relay that I found on the air intake. I need to work out what actually plugs into that, because it looks like there's a plug kind of being pulled out of it. But yeah, that's pretty positive result on the other side. Right, so a few bits have actually started to arrive for our Gixxer. Now, I have the chip out of the crankcase. So what I'm going to do is pure bodge. It honestly is, guys, but I don't want to invest any money in this engine unless I know it runs. And the quickest and easiest way for me to put this chip back in and actually try and make this thing attune is to either JB weld it or use this castor ammonia, I think. I've heard good things about both. I'm going to do a little bit more reading, but first of all, I'm going to cover the end of this in brake cleaner and give it a good clean up so either of these will actually adhere to it. Right, so Richard has been over and he has taken the complete mick out of me for this. He's explained to me that motorbikes like this have a curved radiator. So I am sorry, motorbike boys who are probably screaming at your TV or phone at that moment. But yes, there's nothing wrong with the radiator. So to me, that's actually a really big relief. Now, moving on, some parts have turned up. So first of all, we've got a clutch lever. I've had to order the right clutch lever because these have a little cut-off on them, which will stop it starting. It's got a kind of neutral check switch on the clutch. The other thing that's turned up is our new stator cover and the gasket as well. Now I am going to RTV this on as well, just to make sure there's no imperfections where I've put the chip in. And I've also borrowed a throttle because the throttle is actually broken off on the inside where the cable attaches to it. So thank you to Ken and Al for lending this to me, as I won't need it permanently, but it helps us run it up and give it a rev as well if the engine's any good. So we're going to put it together and let's see how we get on. Right, so that's everything back together on this side of the motorbike. So we've now got a clutch lever, which is great, and we've got the stator cover back on as well. It's actually looking really good, it looks really cool, and everything appears to have sealed right at the moment. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to spin the bike around, and now we're going to have a look at the wiring on the other side, and also try and get this throttle sorted as well. The throttle is now on as well and it's returning nicely. Now, if you're a motorbike boy, you are probably screaming at your phone or TV now and saying, why hasn't he just replaced the whole thing? Again, this is all a temporary. I just want to fire this thing up. It's got a lot of damage on it. I know no history about this motorbike and I don't know anything about motorbikes. This is the first time for me for actually working on a motorbike. But what I'm going to attack now is the wiring loom. Now, the wiring loom was broken by the plug. I was originally looking for a plug, but again, Richard, when he came over, he said, why are you bothering replacing the plug when you could actually just solder these wires together? It'll be faster, and obviously it doesn't matter with our wiring because we may be moving it out of the motorbike. I say may, we will be moving it out of the motorbike. So we may as well solder it together, save some money and also some time trying to find a plug. Right, so that's another big job ticked off the list. So what I've done is I've made the wires just a little bit longer as well. The reason being because I haven't got the plug anymore. If I need to take it out and I don't want to unplug it or can't unplug it, then I've got the clearance to actually move it around. So that's another job ticked off the list. So I've just opened up the battery compartment for the first time. Now when I collected the motorbike, I did ask them and I did check whether there was a battery on here just to make sure there was going to be no fire hazard. But when I've opened it up, they've cut the wires to the battery. Now you can understand why they do this at the side of the road if this is leaking oils and leaking fuels everywhere. It's easier and faster and safer just to cut the wire straight off it and remove the problem which is going to spark it. But what I need to do now is, A, I need to get a battery for this, and also I need to extend these wires down so they'll actually make contact with the terminals. Okay, so I've just popped out and got the remaining parts that I need. So I've got the oil to fill the engine back up, I've also got a battery, and I've managed to get these pre-made leads so I can replace the power lead and the negative lead in one go. So let's get those on and then hopefully we're there ready for a fire up. Right, so now has come the time to actually put the engine oil in. Now the thing that I've got to keep an eye on with this is actually on the other side, making sure that it isn't leaking out of the casing where I've repaired it. Now, if this weeps a little bit or if there's kind of a bit of residue around it, I'll accept that as long as it's not gushing out the side. But let's get some oil in it and see if that repair has worked. So mega result there. The crankcase is not leaking and not weeping, so we are ready for a fire up. Now, the other thing is, when this gets heat in it, that is when the crankcase could leak or start weeping. But for now, it's a really positive result. So what we'll do is pop the battery in. Right, so we've got all of the lights and stuff on here. The only thing I'm looking at is I can't actually see a neutral light on it. Now I thought these had a neutral light on them just to make sure that it's out of gear, but I could be wrong, but I can definitely see an N sign on the dash. Right, here we go, first proper start up. So ignition on, clutch switch in, and we've got no crank. That could be the button broken. Right, so I'm going all the way through the gearbox at the moment and there's no neutral light. And I would assume on this it's going to need neutral to be able to crank. Right, so a bit of a debacle here. So I've had to trace some of the wiring back because the bike wouldn't fire up. I can't even get a neutral switch on this at the moment or a neutral indicator on the dash. And what I found is the main fuse relay has actually got broken in the accident. That is actually one of the pieces down here. So I've just ordered one of these. They're only 20 quid. Bang one of those in, but I can't go any further until I've got one of those. Right, so it's time to crack on with the GSXR again. Now, this relay goes down the front of it. Now, what was really interesting about this, which kind of threw me off a little bit, this is a flasher relay, but it also controls lots of other things, such as the ignition, neutral switch, and so on. So, we'll pop this in, down the front. Then what I'm going to do is connect up the battery, because I've disconnected it. Oh, there's more whirring and buzzing at the moment. That's good. Right, I've got more dash lights on than I've ever had before. So, yeah, I've left the key on, but everything's flashing and beeping. Right, so I've got a neutral light. Got me indicators flashing. Don't know where the cancel is for that. Oh, right. Okay, we've got a headlight. That's good. Right, okay. So that looks like full ignition. Whoa! Right, okay. So this has got a clutch switch on it, so I've just pulled the clutch in. Let's have a go. running it. This is actually running. Whoa. Got a bit too carried away. Right. I know nothing about bikes, so I'm probably getting this all wrong, but yeah, it's running. Got no lead side of it, it's absolutely banging. Doesn't like that, does it? It's almost like every time I move it cuts out. There we go, it's a runner. So, let's try and put it through a paces. That's why I'm not a biker. So I'm now down with Richard. I was all ready to pull this thing apart now because obviously it's running, which is all I wanted to care about it, but
I thought I'd have a go on it whilst we've got it here. So we'll have a bit of a rip round and see how it goes. Yeah, goes well that. I like it. Do we have to cut it to bits? Oh dear.
Right, so now Richard's had his way with the GSXR. We are going to rip it to bits.
Yeah, it's not going to look like this for much longer. We are literally pulling it to bits, and yeah, wait and watch and see what it goes into.
Yeah, so for now, join us on the next episode of the Anarchy Garage.